All right, Dakota. Welcome to Ambition Blueprint.
Thanks,
So
bro.
give me like a rundown of like what this place is. So you're a wholesaler. You just moved into this new business. Like for my audience, what is wholesaling exactly?
Yeah, so wholesaling is basically putting a property under contract, getting the rights to purchase it, and then selling those rights to purchase the property. We also do flipping. We do own rentals. So we own about 80 rentals, and mostly around Fort Wayne, some in Auburn, which is like 20 minutes north of here for anybody listening if you're not from Fort Wayne. And yeah, we also have Airbnbs. We also do novations, which is a whole new thing. I don't know if you've even heard of novations. That's an interesting thing that we can get into if you want to, but novations as well. And we do wholesaling, which is basically just buying properties and listing them on the market. So we do a lot more than wholesaling, but wholesaling is probably like about 70% of our business.
Definitely. So I know you're huge on helping out others. So what's made you change from when you're first starting out on your business? How have you noticed that helping others actually also helped you?
And that's been since the beginning, honestly. So I'll tell you a story. I don't know if you've heard this story or not, but when I was in the car business, so I started off selling cars when I was 20 years old. I didn't even know I was going to be a good car salesman or a good salesperson at all, but ended up working out pretty well. And there was a guy, I was probably like 22, so about 2 years into car sales. I was like, I want to start flipping houses. So I asked my manager at the time, I'm like, hey man, like how did you get into this? Like how did you start flipping and stuff? Like how do you find the deals? And then he's like, why would I help you? He's like, you'd be my competition. And I remember like, dude, I'm 22 years old. I've sold a decent amount of cars, but I've not accomplished anything. I wouldn't even see myself as a real threat or anything. But that kind of changed my attitude towards obviously towards him. I was like, all right, dude, I'll be your competition then. But then also like, I never want to be that guy. I'm like, that is somebody who I don't want to be. I don't want to ever hold somebody back from what they're capable of. And I remember in sales in general, it was very much like dog eat dog, very cutthroat. Like, dude, if you were selling cars and you were selling one, somebody felt like you were now taking from their family. And so that was kind of like embedded into the sales guys. And so I took a lot of that energy on of like, dude, I'm gonna get what's mine. And then that means taking from somebody else. I didn't really like that energy. It doesn't align with my values on what I also believe the Bible teaches as well. So I'm like, man, this is interesting because I know I have this competitive side in me. Dude, I got a freaking competitive side that is crazy. So I can feed into that and I like that energy. I like that energy in other people, dude. I never want to hurt anybody or like, tell them to do less than what they're capable of. But what shifted for me was realizing that just because I win doesn't mean somebody else has to lose. And that was really the shift. And it happened in car sales, kind of in real estate. It happened all at the same time. But basically the mindset shifted. Instead of I win, you lose, it was more of like, I want to beat you, but I also want to help you become the best that you can possibly be. I'm still going to win because I'm going to continue to grow, develop. I'm going to work harder. I'm going to exemplify what I'm doing, but I'm also never going to hold you back from what God created you to be or your potential. So that was the mindset shift that I had is I'll teach you everything that I possibly know and I still want to win. I'm still going to work to beat you. And I actually think that makes other people better. It's kind of like if you're playing, like let's say air hockey with somebody and you're taking it easy on them, they're not going to get better and neither are you. But if you're trying to your hardest, they're probably going to get better now. And I still want to win, but at the end of the day, I'm not making them better if I try any less hard or give away deals. So that was a mindset that kind of shifted for me.
Was there a defining moment in your life that changed your perspective and set you on a path to where you are today?
There's several.
Yeah. Hear them all.
Yeah, there's several. I mean, the first one, for anybody that doesn't know my story, and I don't know if a lot of your listeners will know my story or anything like that, but the first one that was really a defining factor for me was when I was 6 years old. So I just remember getting off the bus. I was with my older sister. My little sister and my aunt were outside, and I was like, all right, where's my parents? And my mom was in the hospital, and my dad was in jail because my mom, I guess was saying, hey, we're leaving, and I'm taking the kids, and my dad apparently got really upset, got really mad, and beat her, almost killed her, broke her collarbone, shot at her, pulled up the toilet, hit her with it. So yeah, that was a defining moment for me because in that moment, I decided, all right, I got to be the man of the house and I'm going to step up and take care of my two sisters. And so that was a interesting defining moment that changed who I am as a person. And in a lot of ways, it changed me for a lot of good things, but also like there's some emotional damage that it did too that kind of detaches me from emotion to be more objective, to raise defenses that I've honestly been working through now. But that was one of my most defining moments, was probably when I was 6 years old. Other ones, I guess, would be like getting into the dealership. Whenever I went from, I was working in landscaping, making $12 an hour, working 60 hours a week, and then every winter I had to go find a job in factories. I went to Texas one time. Like, dude, I did anything I could to survive. And so when I learned sales, when I found out that, holy crap, dude, like I actually might be good at this, that was a huge defining moment for me. And it was an opportunity that I could have not taken advantage of and I could have failed at, but instead I freaking maximized and I used everything that I learned from car sales into business today. I really took on that role of like, I'm a business inside of a business. And I learned all the skill sets, not all of them, but a lot of the skill sets that I used to buy real estate, to run a team. So that was definitely a defining moment for me. I got salesperson of the year for 4 years in a row. So many salesperson months. I think it was like 35 out of 50 months that I was there, got salesperson of the month. So that changed my perspective on who I am and what I'm capable of if I got the right opportunity, which I believe everybody's got a lot of opportunities in front of them. They just a lot of times don't see them. So that was a really defining moment. The last one that comes to play, I mean, now I got the real estate and everything's kind of playing out, but the last one that really changed who I was a lot, and I remember, was when I got divorced. My wife actually cheated on me and left me, and that was, partially my fault, just for emotional neglect, working so much and everything that was going on in my life. But man, that one broke me down pretty bad, because what happened to me when I was younger, it felt more of like, I'm a victim to circumstances in some sense. I'm 6 years old. There's only so much I can do. I didn't really contribute to that. With my marriage, I definitely contributed to the reason of why she left. And so that was a defining moment that I had to look at myself and say, okay, is this how I want to live? What did I do? What did I contribute? How am I being? All of those different things contributed to the reason of why she left. And that was a really, really low point in my life, because I was making good money. Freaking I was young. Everybody's like, dude, you're young, you're good looking, you're making good money. Like, it's not that bad. But man, that was hard. That was one of the hardest times I've ever been, because she was telling me basically everything that was wrong with me. And it's the one person that I ever opened up to my entire life, because I was so, secluded to myself just based on stuff that happened in my past. And so I will open up to somebody, and then they tell me how horrible I was as a person. And then I'm like, dang, the one person that really knows me feels like I'm a piece of crap. So that was a defining moment for me that really changed the trajectory of my life once I got through that, like, depression and all that stuff. So
one thing I was talking to Jimmy about is some people see failures as failure instead of as an opportunity.
Yeah.
What's one thing that you would give somebody advice on to switch their mindset as a failure is not a failure, it's an opportunity to get better?
Yeah, so Ed Milet has a quote that I really like, and he says, everything happens for you, not to you. And so that's an interesting perspective when you look at it that way. And then obviously the Bible says all things work together for the good of those who love him. And so when you look at it from that perspective, it's like, what good can be brought out of this? And that is a hard question to answer, especially when you're going through it, man. That's a friggin' tough one. What's interesting, and I don't know if this is just humans, or I do believe that God did create it this way, but also he puts the lessons inside of the hard stuff. It's like when you think about life and you think about, okay, when did you actually learn lessons? When did you actually grow as a person, grow your capacity, grow who you are? It was usually when you went through the hard stuff. And the harder the stuff that you went through, the more that you went into reflection mode and thinking, what got me here? Now, the interesting thing that I see people do a lot of times is they're going to say, oh, this got me here, I'm never going to do this again. So an example would be like, let's just say my marriage. Oh, I got divorced. I'm never going to get married again. Well, was it the marriage that actually did it? Was it how I showed up in the marriage? So we set these guardrails or like these defense mechanisms to protect ourselves from something that happened when that could be not even the thing that actually happened. But anyway, to answer your question again more directly, it has to do with looking at things as if you want to grow, you have to go through that stuff. You know that you're going to have to go through it. It's not just going to be an uphill thing. And I know that people know that, but remember, and this is something that Alex Hormozy says, is like, this is what hard feels like. It's like, dude, you have to remember that if you want to go through this stuff, this is what you asked for. And I remind myself of that a lot. I asked for this. I asked for this life. So when things get hard, you don't have to be upset about it. You don't have to complain. It's like, dude, I asked for this. When you're running a marathon and you freaking hurt your leg or you got shin splints, you asked for it. You said you were going to do it. So don't sit there and be a victim to your circumstances. Say, all right, I wanted this. I wanted this kind of hard. I wanted this responsibility. Now that it's here, now I get to show real courage and push through it. So
what pushes through? What makes you push through those hard moments?
So for me, it comes back to a purpose, and I believe that God gave me a purpose to be here on this earth, and I think it's ever evolving, and it's always kind of like being revealed to me even more in a different capacity. But that's really what I come down to, is like, I believe that God put me here for a reason. I believe that He put every other person here for a reason. And so that's helpful for me to remember whenever I'm going through the hard times, like, man, this is happening for a purpose, and it's growing my capacity for something. I don't even know what it is. But then it's interesting because sometimes it kind of reveals itself, and that's the most beautiful part, is when somebody comes to you and you're like, dude, I've been following you now for 1.5 years, and I started reading my Bible because you said you were doing that. I had no idea that I made an impact, but that could have made an impact on that person's eternity, and God put me in a position to do that. And so that's what really defines for me, like, why I go through the hard things. I also go back to the parable of the talents a lot. I don't know if are you familiar with the parable of the talents in Matthew?
No, go run that through me.
Okay, have you read the New Testament at all?
I have not, no.
Okay. So I'll tell you the parable of the talents. So the parable of the talents, I'll give you a really brief synopsis. Basically, Jesus tells this parable that says, all right, one person gets 1 bag of talents, the other person gets 3, and the other person gets 5. The person that got 5 goes and gets 5 more, and he brings back and he says, hey, look, master, look at what I got. You gave me 5, and I got 5 more. I used what you gave me to the best of my abilities, essentially. And then the master said, hey, well done, good and faithful servant. Come into your master's joy. The one that had 3, he went back, made 3 more. Same thing played out. He said, well done, good and faithful servant. Come into your master's joy. The one that had 1, he went and buried it. He went and dug it up, and he said, hey, here's the one that you gave me. Look, I gave you back what's yours. And basically that the master was just like, discuss it with him and said, all right, go to where there's, I think it's the outer darkness where there's weeping and gnashing of teeth. But basically, the guy buried his talent. It was like, man, he was given something and he decided just to bury it. And that's what I believe that people do whenever they're not using what they've been given, or they just want to be a victim to their circumstances. Like, oh man, it's hard. And they'd rather just bury it. And then they blame the creator. They blame other people. They blame all this other stuff. That's what I believe that people are doing, is burying their talent and then pointing the fingers. And I also believe that most people we're 3-baggers, right? We're all kind of 3-baggers in a lot of ways, because some people have been given more and some people have been given less. But at the end of the day, it's not about what each one of us have. It's what we do with what we're given. And I feel like I have been given a lot of gifts and talents. And so I'm going to maximize those to the maximum ability that I possibly can, because I believe that that's what I'm created on the earth to do. So that's why I go through the freaking hard stuff.
What's one step that you can take accountability in your actions? Like, what advice would you give to somebody to start taking accountability in their own actions?
To take accountability?
Instead of like projecting all their problems on everybody else, like, I'm this way because of this person, etc.
It's interesting. So, trying to think of the best way to answer this. I'm actually almost done with my book, which is funny because I'm saying a lot of the same stuff that's in the book. So hopefully people will go get the book as soon as it comes out. But something that I talk about in there, which is kind of funny, is a lot of people look at white males and they're like, all right, dude, we have an advantage because we're white, we're a male, we got all this other stuff. Now we're able to do everything easier. And I'm like, okay, I agree. Now what? So just because somebody has it easier for you, does that mean that it's not possible for you? No, it doesn't mean it's not possible. It means that somebody else out there has it easier, but it doesn't mean anything for you or a reason of why not. So the question that I ask myself whenever I start to get in those modes of like, oh man, like this is so horrible. And like, this other person has it easier and all this stuff. It's not possible for somebody like me because I don't speak this language. I'm this skin color. I'm whatever. I didn't grow up rich. The question that I ask myself that's been very helpful for me is there somebody else that has the same circumstances or less than me that is doing what I want to do? In 99% of the time, the answer is yes. And so that answers the question, is it possible for you? If that answer is yes, now the question is, what do you need to do in order to get it? So that's the thought process that I go through whenever I'm getting all negative and I'm like, oh, somebody's got it easier, all this other bullcrap. Is somebody else out there doing it who has the same skill set that I have or the same circumstances or less, and now it's even harder for them that are doing more than I'm doing?
What's the brief summary of your book about?
Basically everything I just talked about. My entire life, biography, lessons I've learned. It's called From Foster Care to Millionaire. And so it's just like kind of going over a biography of my life and kind of what happened, the lessons that I've learned along the way. I talk about, stuff that happened in my childhood. Something I didn't talk about earlier in the story was going to foster care. So I talk about going to foster care, what that's like, the different lessons that I learned. And again, just those different nuances of like, I learned this stuff, I created protection against myself, and then now I'm working to take down the protection, but still keep the good things that happened. And that's an interesting balance. So yeah, that's basically a synopsis. I would also consider myself a pretty self-aware person. So I think about what I think about and why I think what I think. And so I do that a lot in the book, which has been very interesting to like even see my own thoughts and then write them down. And then what I noticed was you have the same thoughts a lot. So I accidentally tell the same lesson twice in two different aspects, but we come back to the same thoughts. That can be a good or a bad thing depending on your thoughts, right? You can get into a negative loop or you can get into a positive loop. Depends on your thoughts. So it's interesting to write it all out and see how you think. But that's basically, it's an autobiography more or less.
What was that book called?
From Foster Care to Millionaire.
What was the biggest challenge you faced on your way to becoming a millionaire, and how do you push through and maintain your focus?
Biggest challenge I faced. It's so interesting because I didn't set out just to become a millionaire. It just like kind of happened along the way. And so the biggest challenge I would say is probably like focusing. That's the biggest thing. I mean, I think that I can do a lot of different stuff. I have the ability to do a lot of different things. It's harder just to pick one and stay in that freaking lane instead of like, oh, dude, I'll do partly this, part of that, part of this. And I can do all of them and I can do them pretty well. But like, I wanted to pick one thing that I can freaking like just crush it. And so that was really difficult to not continue to jump or do sales and like let it go. That was probably the biggest challenge, I would say. Other than that, I mean, a lot of the way that became a millionaire was honestly from rentals, cash out refinancing, which we showed Andrew how to do as well, which he just hit it like yesterday.
Yeah, Wednesday.
Yeah, which is pretty crazy. So yeah, most of the wealth was built off that. And then honestly, whenever we brought him on, it was funny because Andrew thought that whenever he first started working for us, that he thought that I was a millionaire. And I never said it. He just for some reason assumed it, which is kind of funny. I think my net worth was like $750,000. And then like whenever we started growing the company, that was when it just started growing rapidly. I mean, it went really fast where like, I think I became a millionaire within like 5 or 6 months of bringing Andrew on, because it was just like, instead of focusing on 10 or 12 different things, I focused on like 5. And he was focused on the texting, the cold calling, all of the stuff that I showed him how to do. he was focused on that now. And so that was very helpful to take those 7 things off of my plate. He's focused on it. He's getting paid very well to do it. And then now I can focus on the other stuff, which is more like managerial style. And I continue to do that, and I'm continuing to figure that out. And what I would say for people who want to become a millionaire, and this is something that I teach all of our guys here, is look at the trajectory that you're on. What trajectory are you on right now? Because when I was in car sales, what I did was I looked year over year how fast my net worth was growing. I was finding out, okay, I'm making $150K a year. I'm paying down my house. I'm doing all these different things. My net worth was going up by like $50,000 a year. It was not a significant amount. That was even with saving everything I can, paying out my house. I didn't know what to do with investments. And so, one, you won't get rich by saving. That's something I told Andrew as well. And he finally started buying real estate. Whenever I started buying real estate and doing car sales, my net worth started going up by about $150,000 a year. So that was like, okay, another 100K, that's pretty cool. We were buying maybe 3 properties a year, like not a whole lot in the beginning. And then whenever I started the company, it went up by like $750K a year. Now it's going up by over $1 million a year. So it's like every year it's going up over $1 million a year now. And so I'm still trying to do the same thing that I was doing back then, which is, okay, how can I get out of the day-to-day more, have other people doing this stuff, and then I can focus on stuff that makes a whole lot more sense for me to work on, because now my skill set's grown. I now know how to do more things and bring more revenue to the business, and it doesn't make sense for me to keep doing the same jobs that I've been doing. Like, I want to grow to and then grow back my capacity, ability, and make sure that the trajectory is there. But the main thing for people to do is, what are you making year over year, and what's your net worth going up? And then if you make different decisions, look at what the trajectory will be, and then you decide if you want to stay on that trajectory or not.
So as you built wealth and expanded your properties, how did your mindset evolve, and what key mental shifts were necessary for your growth?
All right, ask that question again.
Good. So as you built and expanded your properties, how did your mindset evolve, and what key mental shifts were necessary for your growth?
Gosh dang, that is a lot. There's so much that shifted. It's funny because I don't even know what shifted all of the way. Like, you don't even realize how much you've shifted. But the most obvious one for me was going from sales, where everything's about what I produce, what I'm able to do. If I don't want to work and I already have enough money, I can leave and I don't have to worry about it. That's freaking a really nice place to be at. And I think people underestimate it. Because it's nice not having to worry when you go out of town. You're like, all right, dude, like, somebody else has got it. It's fine. You can't go under. That's a mindset shift, to go from me to a team of people that are like, if I'm out of town and like, something needs done, like, they might need me. They might actually need something. And if it doesn't go well, I still have to figure it out when I get back. So that was a huge shift. And delegation, and then relying on other people to do their job and do their thing, and then be more in a leadership role as opposed to leading myself. Which, when you're in a leadership role, you have to do both. You have to lead yourself very well, because if you do not lead yourself, people won't follow you. If I say things and like, dude, these people see me more than they see, like, more than my family sees me. So if I'm saying things that don't align with what I'm actually doing, they know. They will know, and now they will act differently based on that. People do not follow people who don't keep their word. They're like, oh yeah, they say this bullcrap, but they don't even do it. Like, so I think authenticity is very real. So that's been another shift, is just leading people and leading myself. That's probably the biggest one that I think was hard. That's a very hard shift. And honestly, sometimes I wish I could go back, because the other one was way easier. But this, like, whenever you're relying on other people, it demands so much more from you, and it makes you expand who you are as a person. It's hard. It's hard. I do not recommend it for everybody, because I think people underestimate how difficult it is.
To be a boss, or like to be a broker?
Yeah, to be an owner of a business where everybody's watching you all the time and you are the leader. It's such an interesting dynamic where it feels as though sometimes, like, you have to be real and authentic, but then what do you do when you're real and authentic and you're freaking scared? And you are like, dude, I don't know if I want to keep doing this. And you're like, you now need to motivate, push, not have the fear, even if you are scared, or you just let them know, hey, I have it, but I'm going to go through anyway, which is what I like to do. It's just sometimes hard because you feel as the leader, you're supposed to maintain and hold the space and like, motivate. But what happens when you're not all the way there? And then now you need the team to be there for you. So it's just an interesting dynamic. I relate it kind of similar to when you're in a sales situation and you're having a really bad day. That customer does not care about your bad day. They care about their experience. So then are you being authentic if you're not telling them everything that's going on and then you put on a smile and all this stuff even though you're being bad? So it kind of messes with your ability to be real with yourself on how you feel. So it's just an interesting dynamic, and leadership is that times 10, I feel like, in a lot of ways. So it's a tough thing to manage as many people, and then like, dude, I want to help everybody, but also the way that I help has to shift. And that's where I'm realizing now too, is like, I can't keep giving people the answer. I have to have them, teach them how to go get the answer, even if I know it, which is really difficult for me too. I'm just like, all right, let's just freaking make it easy. Here's the answer.
Yeah.
But
you don't grow that way.
Yeah, you don't grow. And so that's not how I learned it. And I'm going to go do the same steps that they're going to have to do in order to get the information. So that's been another shift that I've been working on recently. But yeah, man, it's not as easy as everybody thinks. Everybody's like, dude, I want to be a boss. I want to be an owner. I want to be this stuff. And like, I tell people, I don't know if you do. Everybody's like, dude, we did 43 deals last month. We bought 43 properties, which is pretty insane. So we're on pace. I don't even know how many we're going to buy this year. Probably well over 300 houses in this year. And I'm like, everybody's like, dude, I want to do that. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if you do. And so the question is, what lifestyle do you want to live? Because this demands a certain amount from you, at least if you set it up the way that I set it up, which I'm working on that. But I don't think everybody wants it as much as they do, because when you hit a certain level of income, it doesn't make a difference. It does not make a difference if I make, let's just say we're going to make 1.5 this year. It doesn't make a difference if we make 1.5 or 3.5. My life is the same. My life does not change based on that. So when you get to a certain income level, it doesn't change based on how much more you make, which is where it gets really interesting. So then it goes back to the purpose of why you're doing it. So, and dude, it demands a lot. It demands a lot from you.
There's a quote that I think you might kind of like and kind of plays into your story a little bit. So it's like, faith is taking the first step even when you don't know. Or no, it goes, butchered that. Faith is taking the first step even when you don't know or see the whole staircase. It's just like leaning into like the unknown to grow.
100%. Everybody wants certainty, dude.
When you were first starting out this business, what was like your number one, like, what was your goal for it?
Yeah, so, I mean, a lot of people know that I grew up really poor. So I grew up extremely poor in foster care. Goal number one, whenever I first got into sales, make a lot of money. I thought you make 6 figures, you're freaking rich. Found out that not to be the case because I was making good money, but then I wasn't living the life. I lost my wife. I freaking didn't have time for anybody. And I was like, oh, dang. So then I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I was like, oh, wow. Like, that sounds like a better way. Like, you can get money and you can build wealth and you can have time freedom back. That sounds like a better strategy than what I'm doing right now. I'm just working my butt off and like freaking making it happen. So that was what shifted. And so the main thing I was trying to get back was time freedom. But it's interesting because now I'm here and I became pretty wealthy, especially for my age, and I don't have my time back still. So now I'm shifting because now I'm 30. I'm going to a new phase of life where, I have a girlfriend, I kind of want kids, I'm kind of shifting. So everything's kind of changing on the way that I want things to look. Before, it's just growing and it was fun. And like, dude, we have a lot of fun too. Like all the guys in here, like we have a lot of fun. Like we used to play ping pong a lot. I don't play it much anymore, but we're gonna have a gym, we're gonna have a sauna. Like we're very big on growth, but also growth can be fun. And so I'm working to get my time back, which is what I started off this mission doing, but I get very easily sidetracked by exciting growth. And so that's my main goal that I'm working on now, is going to be like getting my time back, because that was what I set out to do from the beginning. And I could do it now. I could just sell everything and say, F, and I'm going to be a private money lender or whatever I wanted to do, just to continue to like, passively make money. I could probably passively make like $500K a year. But this is what gives me more purpose, fulfillment, and I want to help freaking more people like Andrew become millionaires. So like all these guys here, like dude, that lights me up to help these guys to become financially free. And I also like to help other people to figure out how to do that in their own life. So that's kind of my next steps, is to automate the business more, get more time freedom back, and then I can help other people.
So there's actually just another quote that you just reminded me of. It goes, "No man becomes rich unless he enriches others."
That reminds me of a Zig Ziglar quote that's one of my favorites. And he says, you can get anything that you want in life. You just have to help enough other people get what they want. And so that was one that I always remembered in sales. And that's very important because it's so true, dude. If you help other people get what they want, you can get what you want in life, especially if you help a ton of people to get what they want, because then they want to help you get what you want as well.
What did rich mean to you back then versus now?
Like when I was in school? Or like in high school, or like when I was in sales?
Sales.
Oh yeah, I mean, rich, dude, I felt rich. Dude, you know what's funny? I tell people this and they don't understand. I felt richer back then than I do now. And so the reason why I felt so much more wealthy is I was making $150K a year. My expenses, dude, I freaking, my house payment's $850 a month. My freaking car payment was $300. Overall, all my expenses were probably $2,000 a month. So $2,000 a month, and I'm making freaking, let's just call it 10 net. Dude, it was freaking great. It was great. I had like 8,000. I had like 30, 40,000 in the bank. I was like, dude, I'm freaking rich. I felt rich then. Yeah. Now we have a ton of money in the bank, way more than that. But dude, the overhead, the stress, the employees, like we spend over $1 million a year in payroll. We're spending freaking, I don't even know how much on construction. I know just in this building and then the other building, we've already spent over $1 million this year on those 2 buildings alone. And we did freaking, how many flips and stuff. So the overhead is just so scary. So when you're in commission sales, the worst thing that can happen is you don't freaking sell anything and then you don't get paid. Well, when you're in business, you can go negative. You can go in the hole. So they can take even more from you. So if anything fails, I lose everything. I mean, I got everything on it. My house, my car, the buildings, all the rentals. All of it's tied in together. So if one fails, they all go down. So the stakes that I'm playing are a lot higher. So it's interesting. I felt wealthier then than I feel now. But back then I would say wealthy to me was like, I don't know, if you're a millionaire, I thought you were wealthy. If you lived in a nice house, you're making $250K a year, I thought you're wealthy. But now I would say wealth to me really comes back to I guess like ability to be able to do whatever you want. That's what really wealth comes down to for me, because it might not be necessarily just monetary. I think monetary comes into play, but also it has to do with time and your ability to do it, which I now have the ability to, and then I choose not to based on purpose. So I could like I said, I could sell everything and decide, all right, dude, I'm done at any time. I really don't want to do that, and I don't believe that's what like God put me on this earth for. And so that's the reason of why I don't want to do it right now. But I think the ability to be able to is kind of important for actual wealth.
That's pretty good. I agree with that a lot too, actually. How is like your definition of success then? Like
Success.
So the definition of success changed from when you first started to now. It's like, would you say like success at first was making money, and then what would be your success now? Like, is it still on that same path, or are you on a different path as of right now?
So success to me, I've thought about this, and I really like this definition. Success to me means growth. If you're growing, I believe that that's successful. And so like, I think that because it's based on your abilities. And so I don't think that everybody has the same abilities. So what success looks like for you might look different than what it looks like for me. It might look different from a stay-at-home mom or something like that. Because I believe the success is growth in any area that you want to grow in. So like if you wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, dude, like if you're growing in your abilities to be a good mom, I believe that's success. I believe that is successful because you're growing in what you believe that your God-given purpose is, and now you're not just squandering that, you're maximizing it. And so to me, it just has to do with growing as a person. I think it's success if like, somebody was overweight and now they became healthy. That's success to me. But yeah, I think that definition has been changed, and that's one that I think makes the most sense, because I've tried to define success in general. And yeah, it's very difficult, because I don't just believe, okay, like let's say you graduate college or you hit a milestone. I don't know if that's success. It's like, all right, dude, was it successful in that moment? Yes, because you had to put in a lot of work and effort and you hit a pinnacle, but like, I don't know, man, that's a tough one too, because like if you go one area and then like, let's just say you're an athlete and you do really well, you make a lot of money, you're one of the top, but then like your marriage is failing, your freaking spiritual life is horrible, your relationship with God, you're on a lot of drugs, like, I don't know if you're successful, so that is one thing that I guess I haven't even thought about until just now, is like, I've seen guys that have a lot of money that are overweight, they have horrible marriages, and that like have a horrible relationship with themselves, or an alcoholics.
It's kind of like what Andy Elliott says, like, your body is your business card.
Yeah, exactly. I think that all of it's important. So success also has to do with like making sure that you're still like not just letting all the other areas fall, but I would say it's growing in every area. I also believe if you're not growing, you're dying. So and that's every area of life, your spirituality, your business, your relationships, every area of your life is growing or dying. And so if you're letting them die, I think that is not success. So do not neglect those important areas of your life. Work to continue to grow all of them. And some are going to grow faster, more than others in different times. But I would say don't neglect the areas for one. I see a lot of people neglect their health for business or their relationships for business, and I've done it. And I don't think it's worth it.
When you're building a team, what are the 3 things that you look for in somebody?
So we actually have 4. But one is going to be, it depends on the position too, of what I look for. But one thing that I look for a lot is going to be trust. I mean, dude, I got to trust you as a person, and I have to know like your character is good. If I don't trust you, dude, I don't care how good you are, I do not want you to work for me. So that's important. Our core values are authenticity. Dude, I want people to be real. I don't want the freaking customer service voice, that whole bull crap where you're acting like you like me even though you freaking talk behind my back, and like, you're acting like you're all good and it's not. Like, I hate that crap. Like, I want people who are real, who want to be here and are 100% authentic. So that's very important for me. The other one is ethical. Like, if you are willing to sacrifice ethics in order to make money, you're not the right person. That goes back into trust. But dude, there's a lot of people out there that will become successful or to get money at any cost. That is not okay with me. There's a way of which you need to go about getting money, which was important for me from the beginning on like, dude, I already knew I could become wealthy. I could have probably became wealthier faster if I did freaking unethical stuff, but I'm not willing to sacrifice ethics for money. And so that's important for me too. The other one is obvious, I think, from listening to me, is growth mindset. Dude, if you do not want to grow, I do not want you around. It's just like, that's success to me. So if you don't want success, if you don't want to grow, then I'm just not interested in having anybody on the team at all. So yeah, those are the top 3. Authenticity, trust, which goes into ethics, growth mindset, and then the last one, which is really difficult for those people who have all that, is going to be humility. You have to be willing to learn, and that is very difficult to find. Somebody who's highly ambitious, freaking wants to put in the work, who's usually number 1 at something, but also humble enough to say, hey, I don't know it all, and I'm willing to learn more. I want to grow. It's very, very difficult. And I also think that comes in flows, because like I've had it where my ego is really high, and I'm like, dude, I think I'm freaking the best. I remember in car sales, I was like, dude, I'm the top guy, and what are they going to do without me? Then I left, and guess what? They're still there. There's a new top guy. Doesn't matter, dude. I'm not as big as I think, and none of us really are. So realizing that there's always more to learn and more to grow, and then also like you can still be really good. So that's something that I look for, is just humility and a willingness to learn. If you're not willing to learn new things, then dude, you're probably not in the right spot.
So with your business upcoming with this new build and everything else, what's like your plan in the next 10 years? Like, where do you guys see yourself at?
I mean, 10 years is a long time, dude.
Or even 5 years.
Yeah, I say if we're looking at, let's just use 10 years for example. I would say 10 years from now, I see this company being 100% automated, probably going to be in Florida. The guys are going to be going back and forth, flying back and forth. They'll probably be in Ohio, Michigan. Shoot, we might even be nationwide. We're going to pick a lot of different markets that we're going to focus on. And I would guess that all these guys that are with me now, if they stayed with me, which I'm going to guess maybe like, I'm hoping that 80% would, but let's just say 50% of them do. At that point, they would then be managers or overseers of those, either the department or those areas. And dude,
That's huge.
Yeah, we're going to have a ton of different, I would guess we'd have a lot of different businesses that all kind of flow into different businesses, an education business, stuff like that. And I would guess that everybody that's here is going to become at the higher level above that. And then we'd have different people down here running this one as time goes on. So that's kind of the way that I would see it. That might be in the next 5 years. It might even be quicker than 10, but 10, dude, I think it'd be crazy then. We'd probably have to have a bigger building than this. We'll probably have a different new build because we're almost maxed out, dude.
How many guys do you have with you currently?
So we have, I think, 14 or 15, somewhere between 14 and 15 in-house people. We have 4 VAs. So yeah, this building is 7,000 square foot. So yeah, we're almost maxed out, which is crazy because we got, all the offices down here. We got offices upstairs, but I think we only have 2 offices available right now. It's crazy.
No, if you could sit down with your younger self or someone just starting their journey, what advice would you give them about life, faith, and ambition?
Man, I would say, I guess to my younger self, if I was talking to my younger self, it would be like, trust your intuition. Because I feel like a lot of times I question it, and it's so interesting how I question my intuition based on what other people tell me, and then most of the time it comes around that, dang, I was actually probably accurate on that. I feel like I look at things very objectively, and a lot of people do not. They look at it from a bias that they want to win, and I feel like I'm able to take myself out of the situation and try to look at things very, very objectively. So I would say trust your intuition. Yeah, the other one is going to be obviously surround yourself around people who want to see you win. That's a rare thing, dude. It's a very, very rare thing, which is something that I explained to our guys that work here is like, there's not very many people in life that actually are excited for you when you win. That's a very rare thing. And most people, they want to tell you things that would like not actually benefit you just because of their insecurities or their belief in what you are capable of. And so find the people who see more in you and who actually celebrate your wins. Like, man, you got to get around people like that who are authentically happy when you win and that you can share your wins with. And that's what I believe that we've created, which is why I believe the guys are so like good here. Because whenever things are going well, dude, we don't just talk about money here too. A lot of people think that we're just all these money people, which is kind of funny. Especially when people hear me, they think that I'm like this egomaniac and that all I talk about is making money and all this stuff. Dude, we talk about our families and like, our relationships. One of our guys texts his parents every day, just told him that he loved them. And one of his parents actually died recently. So it's good to remember that like the things that he did in order to cultivate the relationship or to be the best he could be so he doesn't live with regrets. And so that kind of stuff for us is like, we push everybody to be the best that they can be in every single area of their life. And yeah, that's what I would say for people is like, make sure you get around those people who really want you to win. Because most people act like they do, and then you start winning, or you become more than what they are, and now they don't like that. They'll try to pull you right back down to where they're at. So if you start doing better than them, they get pissed. So I get excited. Like I see Andrew, he's on a different trajectory than I am. Dude, I'm 30. I became a millionaire at 27. He became a millionaire at 21. The trajectory that he's on is so much more than what mine is or was. Based on where he's at in life. He's learning so much faster, so much quicker, so much more. And so that gets me excited. I don't get jealous or pissed off or anything. I'm more like, dude, you have a lot of potential let's freaking grow this thing. And every time he wants to give up or go do something else, I'm like, dude, you can do it. But like, I know you got more. And so don't hold yourself back. Stop. And I also give him different advice. It's not based on money. I remember, I don't know if you know that Andrew left or if he talked about that at all.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So when he left, something that I told him was, dude, I need you to promise me that you're going to go to counseling. Because I know that this has not to do with money. It has to do with your relationship with yourself and some other stuff that you're going through. So I care enough about him as a person that I want him to do what's best for him and his life, even when he's like leaving, you know. I don't just like hate somebody because like, oh, I'm leaving, I'm going to do something else. Like, dude, I want what's best for you regardless. And whatever you think is best, I actually want what's best. And so if I think it's best for you to leave, then I'll tell you, like, dude, you should probably go do this. But my goal is to provide so much value in helping those people reach their potential that they never want to leave, because it's not going to go the same way that they would. Their trajectory is going to become less because of how much I want to provide for them.
Going back to the Rich Dad Poor Dad, what's like your biggest takeaway in that book?
Yeah, my biggest takeaway, dude, there's one that I tell everybody, and this is so freaking important. So what he says a lot of times in that book is he says, a lot of people ask the question, can I afford this? And that is a bad question. Just so everybody knows, the questions that you ask yourself is the quality of the life that you're going to have. And so they used to say there's no bad questions. Like the teachers say that. That is so untrue. You can ask yourself very bad questions, and that's a bad question to ask yourself. Can I afford this? That is yes or no. So yes, I can, or no, I can't. And that's based on what I have today. The question that you could reroute it and actually ask yourself a thought-provoking question is, how can I afford this? That's a different question that your brain now has to process through on what you would have to do in order to get whatever it is that you want. And so by asking yourself that question, you then have a choice on if you want to do those things that you would have to do in order to do it. But instead of asking a yes or a no, a turn off your mind kind of question, you're asking a thought-provoking question, which then goes into problem solving. Your brain is a problem-solving machine, so ask it good questions and it will find out how to solve the problem. But if you ask it questions in order to yes or no, it wants it to stop thinking. So that was one of the biggest shifts that I had from that book.
Are there like daily habits you do to make your brain think and just exercise it?
Yeah. So I do, dude, I have a freaking long list of daily habits. So let me just pull it out really quick so I don't forget them. So one thing that I have, and I have on my daily list. So I have a daily list and a daily checklist. I don't know if TJ has anything like this for you guys, or if he talked about it at all for Kelly Bird.
Say we do like the your spiritual, your physical, relational, and then your business.
Good. Yep. So it's very similar. So one thing that I have right at the top is, you were born to do something great with your life. God created you for today. And so I remind myself of that. That's a phrase that I remember and that I would remind you and everybody listening, is like, you were born to do something great with your life. And so like, that is very important to me. And I really believe that every person was born to do something great with their life. And yeah, I think that's important. So what I have on my daily list that I do that shifts my mindset is, one, I pray for specific people. So I used to just have prayer and, I just be grateful and thankful. But then I found that I want to pray for specific people on challenges, different things that they're going through, gratefulness for that. So I shifted that. I read a chapter of the Bible every day. I journal for 10 minutes. That journal also has a lot of different questions that it asks me. One question that's very helpful for me that I would ask you and any listeners to ask themselves is, if you were a high performance coach and you were coaching yourself, what would you tell yourself to do with your life? And so that was one of the questions that it asked me in the morning. And I think that's an important question to ask yourself, because you know yourself better and you know what you would need to do in order to get yourself to the next level. A lot of times we wait for permission from coaches to tell us what to do, even though we know what to do. We just needed permission for some reason. So give yourself the permission to do what you need to do, and you know what you need to do. The other thing is just obviously working out, stretching. I do a cold shower, cold plunge, 15 minutes of writing my book or working on it. Send a text of appreciation to somebody. So I'm texting somebody specific and just letting them know something specific that I appreciate them for. I send my dad. My dad has recently just gone through some depression and stuff, and that's a whole nother story. But yeah, I've been working with him on just mindset. And so I send him a motivational quote every day. And I send my girlfriend a love quote every single day.
That's awesome.
So I find a quote that it really resonates with me, and so I send her a quote every day. And something that I've been practicing is empathy statements because I freaking am not good at empathy. I'm more just like, dude, suck it up. Freaking, it is what it is. That does not work very well in leadership or relationships. And so I have word scripts that I use a lot for sales. And so I'm like, dude, why would I not do that and embed into my subconscious? That way it automatically comes out whenever I get in these scenarios. So I say 10 empathy statements out loud every single day. So I like actually speak them out loud.
So my last question for you would be, for somebody starting their entrepreneurial career, what's one book that you would recommend them to read? Or one habit to go ahead and take into your daily life?
Somebody starting their entrepreneurial, dude, that's so hard because there's so many different things, so many different books. There's a couple of them. I mean, obviously, I think everybody should read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I think the mindset, even if you don't get into real estate, is a good one. So I think that book has made more millionaires than any other book. Another book that I really liked that was helpful when I was in sales, so it just depends on what you're in, was 10X Rule by Grant Cardone. That one freaking made me want to go hard, dude. I read that one, I was like, dang, I'm motivated. Like, I wanted to push some freaking things around. So that was very helpful. And then The Power of One More by Ed Mylett. Ed Mylett's been one of my biggest influences. There's also a podcast that I believe that every single person should listen to, and that's called Unlocking Your Success Code. Every single person should listen to that one. That one I've listened to 10 times. That is a game changer for me. That was a podcast that changed a lot of my life. So Unlocking Your Success Code by Ed Mylett is a must for people to listen to. As far as habits go, dude, I mean, one thing that Ed Mylett talks about that is one thing that I think is probably the most important thing for self-confidence is going to be just doing what you say you're going to do. And I know that people have probably heard that now, but like it's very, very important because the more that you do those things, the more you're going to trust yourself. The more you trust yourself, the more you're able to not care if other people believe you or not. You're like, dude, I know I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And I have a lot of confidence because I do what I say I'm going to do. And I know that I do it. And so like, it's like, I'm not putting on a facade. I'm not saying this stuff. It's like, no, I'm very real and authentic with them. When I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. The timeline sometimes isn't exactly the way I always think it's going to go because I think things are going to take less time than what they actually do sometimes. But on the daily habits that you do, make sure that whatever you say you're going to do, just do it. Those people that say they're going to work out for an hour a day and stuff, and then they don't, they're hurting their self-confidence. So my other recommendation for people is going to be to start off very small and be very real with yourself and then build on it. Do not try to go do these crazy stuff because that's what I see a lot of people do too is like, man, I'm going to start doing this thing. I'm going to go out there and make this amount of money. I'm going to do this much. And then they don't stay consistent with it because they're not seeing the success that they wanted to. Instead, control what you can control and start very small. Do it consistently. That will build confidence and you'll learn more along the way. But the main thing is just do what you say you're going to do and keep that integrity with yourself and you will gain a lot of confidence. It's going to set you apart from a lot of people. So that's
Absolutely.
it.
Thanks for joining me, Dakota.
Yep. Thanks, bro.
Absolutely.
Best one so far? No, just kidding.
Oh, always, dude. The best host, man. This place is nice, though.
Yeah?
It is. It's sick.